We're going to go ahead and bring in Don Brown, who is a former Navy JAG officer, as well as federal prosecutor and a national security expert. Sir, it's great to have you on Live Now from Fox.
Ryan, thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
So what's your first reaction to hearing this report out there that Jennifer Hegseth has taken this hands-on role, it appears, within the Pentagon? What stands out to you about that?
Well, to me, it's kind of like the epitome of journalistic cowardice when you have left-wing media attacking the wife or family member of a prominent and effective conservative because they don't like his political views. That's what this is about. And really, Jenny Hegseth, Jenny, if you're listening to this, you're in good company. They went after Nancy Reagan, called her Queen Nancy. They went after Melania Trump and still do. Probably our most beautiful and certainly intelligent First Lady, speaks 5 languages. They glorify Democrat spouses. They put Michelle Obama on Vogue. And so they're going after Jenny because Pete's so effective. And the thing that scares them the most is looking down the road, maybe 10 and 15 years, the prospect of a potential president, Pete Hegseth. And they're trying to take Pete out now. He's gone after reforming a military that had been infested with cancer and DEI. You know, he went after Mark Kelly. He's fired woke generals and admirals, and they're taking it out on Jenny. And the litany of items that you mentioned are like Shakespeare used to say, much ado about nothing. So what if she helps him get ready to go on air? She was a producer at Fox. She knows what she's doing. She's a great, talented, and beautiful lady. It just has nothing to do with anything other than a political attack against Pete, if you ask me.
Now, his political opponents would probably point to the one piece of information there, which is sitting in on high profile meetings. Certainly when you're dealing with the Pentagon, there are meetings at the Pentagon. There are a lot of classified meetings with classified information, and you expect most people to be in on them, maybe not all of them, to have some type of security clearance. So I think probably his political opponents will probably raise that one up. Does that one raise any alarms for you?
No, not at all. They'll make up anything. You know, it isn't uncommon for a high-ranking official in the American government to introduce their spouse to other leaders from around the world or in the military. There has been absolutely no indication that Jenny Hegseth has been exposed to any classified information. Again, that's just made up and imaginary stuff. And the left, again, is trying to get at Pete. What has been described as perfectly normal within political circles. And if you got a wife like Jenny Hegseth, then you know she's a great asset to him. Pete's a family man. You know, he's taking her on trips and taking the kids on trips. He's a Christian. He loves his family, and he's just very proud of her, and I don't blame him. And so they're just trying to attack her through him, and it's a shame. Attack him through her, I should say, and it is a shame.
And in a case like this, does that bring up any ethical or legal issues that could pop up in the future? Or is this, for the most part, allowed to be happening?
Well, it's really much ado about nothing. She's a political spouse, and she hasn't been exposed to classified information. It's okay for her to, you know, Pete met with Benjamin Netanyahu, for example. It's okay to say, Mr. Prime Minister, it's my wife, Jenny, you know, and to have small talk. They are making things up that simply isn't there. So we could speculate into situations where it would certainly be appropriate to let someone who isn't cleared to be given access to top secret information, but that's not the case here. This is an attack on Pete Hegseth, and you haven't seen anything substantial raised through the New York Times. They're mad because Pete went after Mark Kelly. You know, they're mad because he fired Lisa Franchetti, the woke DEI former chief of naval operations. They're mad because he fired C.Q. Brown, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who lived by DEI. They're mad because he is cleaning up the United States military in a way that goes against their philosophical moorings. So they're trying to pick on Jenny, and it's not going to get them very far.
And what do you make of some of the major changes that the Pentagon has made in Pete Hegseth's time there? We're coming up on 2 years. Is there anything particular that stands out to you as a major change?
Oh, there are many major changes. First of all, he's cleaned out the woke generals and admirals. Understand that when you take out the 4 years that Trump was in office from 2017 to 2021, you had 12 years of Democrat leadership over the Pentagon. And you had DEI. You know, you go into the first 60 days of the Biden administration with a stand down looking for supremacists. You had the United States Navy, while Admiral Franchetti was vice chairman of the vice CNO, or chairman, chief of naval operations, running recruiting ads of drag queens, a dude wearing a dress. Recruiting went to hell in a handbasket. Our shipbuilding capacity has become a national security issue. Pete is pushing that. The Chinese I'm sure you may know this, Ryan, build 200, their ship capacity building is 230 to 1 over us. They can build ships that 100 times faster than we can. They're building 50% of the ships in the world. And Pete has focused and is tasked to see the chief of naval operations now and the secretary of the Navy to help us catch up. And they're, that's a slide against the Chinese. So he is turning the military back into a lethal fighting machine, not a grand, guinea pig factory for social experimentation, which is what the Democrats have done. And that's what they hate about him. And so, yes, it's a 180-degree turn in the right direction.
What do you make of Jeff Driscoll, the Army Secretary, who's kind of seen as a rising star? There have been some reports that maybe him and Hegseth haven't seen eye to eye on everything, but overall he seems like somebody who's well respected, especially amongst Republican circles, but even in some Democrat ones too.
Well, he does seem to be well respected. The Army and Navy, secretaries that have been appointed or have been vetted. We'll have to see how it plays out. So far, I don't have any reason to have any concern. The concern I've had primarily, Ryan, are the generals and admirals left over from the Obama-Biden years who bought into DEI so heavily that our military's fighting capability has been undermined. We've gotten behind the Russians and the Chinese largely in hypersonic missile technology. I mentioned shipbuilding problems. We've gotten behind them to a degree in cyber warfare because the Democrat militaries are focusing on DEI. And Mr. Driscoll, I'm sure, is aware of all this, and I see no cause for concern as of yet. And if Pete's okay with him, I'm okay with him.
And there's already been a shakeup when it comes to the Navy secretary position, which kind of signals how the Trump administration has wanted to take shipbuilding seriously. That first secretary is put in there to deal with the issue of shipbuilding, and it looks like that it wasn't enough as of right now. So it looks like that still is a top goal of the administration, and one they probably want to get accomplished in some capacity before these next 2 years are up.
You bet. Is it a national security emergency that the Chinese tonnage in shipbuilding outpaces us 232 to 1. The Chinese build 50% of the world's ships. Their Navy is larger than our Navy. We have more sophisticated weaponry. We still could probably defeat them. I'm sure we could, but it is a direction that's got to be changed. The Democrat, Lloyd Austin didn't care about it. Biden's Secretary of Defense didn't care about it. The secretaries under Obama didn't care about it. And Trump had to fight his own first Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, who was locked into fighting Trump's transgender surgery ban, et cetera. Peter's lockstep with the president, and I know him, and I can tell you one thing. He puts the fighting man and woman above men and women with stars on their collars who have been appointed only for political purposes. I think he's certainly already, in my opinion, is the greatest Secretary of Defense in my lifetime. They'll call him Secretary of War. And I think he is an asset to the United States military and to the Pentagon without a doubt.
Former JAG officer Don Brown, we appreciate your time here on Live Now from Fox, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you.